Okay, everybody. Today we're going to talk about two-way frequency tables. This is a topic you may not have seen before, so it's something new. Try to stay with me. I think you will get it if you stay with me. Don't daydream. So here we go. A two-way frequency table. They're a visual representation of the possible relationships between two or more sets of data. Okay? There are categories, and they're labeled at the top and the left side of the table. So in front of you, there is a table. And down the left side, down here, and I'll be erasing these in a minute, down the left side is male and female. So they're talking about male and female. And then across the top, they're talking about SUVs and sports cars. So those are the two categories this table is referring to. So you got these categories at the top and the left. Next, the totals of each row appear at the right, and the totals of each column, columns are up and down, appear at the bottom. So I'm going to go in blue here. These are the totals going down across. This row will be totals. And then here on the right, going down the column, these will be totals. I'm going to get rid of those, but that's where the totals are. So it says, the table below show how many males and females drive SUVs and sports cars. So the first thing you always want to do is you want to fill out this table if you can. So you grab your calculator, and you're going to first, I'm going to circle where the SUV is. We're going to go down, and we're going to add 21 plus 35. Now, I'm not here to show you this, so I'm going to write some things in here. This is 21 plus 135. That's what you're going to put in this column, this spot right here. Now, I'm going to get rid of that. But if I add those two numbers together, I get 156. So the total SUVs is 156. So we come over to these sports cars, and we're going to add those up. 39 plus 45. You have your calculator. 39 plus 45 gives me 84. So I could find those totals. Now, you also want to go across the male row. So if I go across the male row, I'm going to grab this highlighter so you see where I'm talking about. And if I add up those, I get a total over here. So I'm going to erase that. 21 plus 39. I have 60 as my total. Then I have the row of females. So you want to add across. I'll grab the highlighter again. You're going to add across this row on your calculator. When you add up that on your calculator, you're going to add up 135 plus 45, and that gives you 180. Now there's one last number that we need to put. That number we're going to add 60 plus 180 up and down. And that should also give you the same thing if you add across 156 and 84. So you always want to double check that going up and down and left and right give you the same value. And when I do, I get 240. So your first task is always, if you can fill out that table, you fill out the table. So now there's some words here that you have to make sure you know. So I'm going to bring this down so I can refer to it. It tells you, I'm going to grab a different color here, yellow. The numbers 21, 135, 39, and 45, these are called joint frequencies. Now, joint frequencies are in the columns that don't have any of the totals. These are the ones that are not in the total columns, okay? So make sure you realize what those are. Joint frequency. It says next, if you add the numbers in the columns and rows, you get the totals for each category. So the next thing you need to know is the numbers where the totals are. These are called marginal frequencies. The marginal frequencies are your total numbers. So make sure you know what is a joint frequency, what is a marginal frequency. I'm going to draw this down a little bit more so we can answer some questions here. So now you have questions based off of your table. The first one says, how many males were surveyed? So remember, when it says how many males, you want the total males. Not just the SUVs, not just the sports car. The total males is 60. 60 males. You don't need to write males, you just need the number. Then it says, how many females drive an SUV? Well, I'm going to use a highlighter to show, but then I'm going to get rid of it because there'll be too much color up there. It has to be in the female column. And the females that drive an SUV is right here. So SUV and females. So I hope you understand why that answer is 135. Females that drive an SUV. Next, it says how many more. We have done things before when it says how many more. How many more means you're going to subtract something. It says, people who drive SUVs. Well, that means you need the total people who drive an SUV. Hopefully you can tell up there, 156. 156 is the total SUVs. Now we're going to subtract. It says, how many people drive SUVs? Then sports cars. So now we need the total people that drive a sports car. The total people that drive a sports car is 84. So 156 minus 84 gives us 72. And then there's one last question. It says, were there more males or females surveyed? So you look at the totals over on the left, or I'm sorry, on the right. Hopefully you can see that there are more females being surveyed than males. And then it says, by how many more? And remember, when it says how many more, we are going to subtract. There were 180 females minus 60 males, and it's 120. And those are the first 4 questions. Okay? I'm going to try to make this smaller because we have to be able to see this table up here. Okay, I'm sorry it's smaller on the screen. Try to stay with me. Now, things are going to change because it now talks about percent. Okay? Percent is different. Remember, a percent is out of a total. So it says the percent of each category based on the total survey. This is a new word. It's not joint frequency. It's not marginal frequency. It's called relative frequency. A percent is called relative frequency. So we are looking for a percent. Percents are out of 100. Okay? Now, we haven't done much with percents this year, so we're going to talk about it now. It says, what is the relative frequency of males? Every time you do this, you need to know the total surveyed. If you look at the top, I hope you all realize in this table there were 240 total surveyed. So, we're going to put the total surveyed on the bottom. When you find a percent, your total goes on the bottom of a fraction. Next, you're going to find how many males were in the survey. So looking at the table up there, you need the total males. The total males is 60. So what we're going to do, a percentage is always out of 100. So you're going to take the males, 60. You're going to divide it by 240. The total is 240. Then you're going to put times 100 on your calculator. When we do percents, we round it to the nearest whole number. So when you round what you see on your screen, remember, you're typing in 60 divided by 240 times 100. This should say, when you round it, 25%. That is the first one. See if you can try the second one. I'll read it. It says, what percent of those surveyed are females who drive an SUV? So you need females who drive an SUV as your numerator, the number on top. You need those surveyed, which is your total on the bottom. You need to multiply it by 100, and you need to round it to the nearest whole number. So I'm going to write what you should have wrote now. This should be 135 over 240 times 100. So in your calculator, remember you're taking 135 divided by 240 times 100. You're rounding to the nearest percent, so you should have 56%. Now I'm going to have to go back and forth on the screen because mine doesn't show enough to do the next ones. Now it changes, and it changes to the word probability. Probability is out of a total also. So when you do probability, you have the total on the bottom again. Probability, write yourself a note. This is not a percent. Probability is going to be a simplified fraction. So when you do probability, we don't want a percent, so you're not going to multiply it by 100. You're just going to simplify a fraction. This question says, what is the probability that someone chosen at random from the survey? Well, when you choose someone from random, that's your total. Our total is 240. That's going to be our denominator. It says, those people chosen at random, how many of them are male that has an SUV? So I'll scroll up here real quick. How many males had an SUV? You got your number? Males that have an SUV is 21. So what you're going to do right now, you're going to push green alpha, y equals, number 1, you're going to put 21 over 240, and that simplifies to be 7/8. 7/8. The next one says, we'll go a little faster. What is the probability someone chosen at random from the survey, that's 240 again on the bottom, is a female? So look at the top of your paper. Find how many females were in the survey. All right, did you get 180? And you're going to simplify this as a fraction. 180 fraction 240. That is 3/4. Now this video is going to stop. We've got to start another one. So while it's stopped, why don't you try these last two questions?